Saturdays and Sundays, 10 a.m. to noon Eastern. He's also MSNBC's chief correspondent, the one and only Ali Velshi.
Nice to be back with you, my friend.
Well, your Toronto land is getting a lot of attention lately. I wonder, before we get into serious things, I'm thinking you might be Team Drake. I'm thinking that you might, just for the home crowd thing.
I totally am,
Wow.
and I know exactly where his place is, and it's like, yeah, that was some weird stuff, but yeah, I'm definitely Team Drake.
Okay, well, I'm sorry for you. This is the wrong side of history, but listen, tribalism and nationalism is everything right now. So we're experiencing a little bit of that in the U.S. of A.
Yeah.
The Biden administration today said that they will stop sending bombs to Israel if it launches a major invasion of Rafah. Biden said, I made it clear that if they go into Rafah, they haven't gone in, and they haven't gone into Rafah yet. If they go into Rafah, I'm not supplying the weapons that have been used historically to deal with Rafah, to deal with the cities, the deal with that problem, the language. Biden said the United States would continue to provide defensive weapons to Israel, including Iron Dome air defense systems, shipments.
It's weird to know where that line is, right? Because Israel has said it requires these weapons. Now all sorts of, generally speaking, right-wing Israeli politicians and some people in the defense sector in Israel have said, we don't need your weapons. Israel can do this without you. It's like, okay, well then why have we been supplying all these weapons the whole time? The fact is we have been supplying offensive weapons. Now, this isn't new, Karen. It's not new for Israel. It's not new for Saudi Arabia when that war was going on with Yemen. So I'm not quite sure why this is suddenly the line, but I'm glad it is, because there is a potential deal on the table. And America has been trying to get everybody to get something done, but we are the most influential player outside of that war. And we need to take a position.
Ali, you know why? I'm not confused, but it is confusing. The right wing zealots, the white nationalists in this country, those that might support people wearing khaki pants and carrying tiki torches, saying the Jews will not replace us, are the same people saying this is good. I'm confused by do they hate Jewish people, or do they?
You and me both. And just to take it one step farther, the confusing of all of these issues, the confusing of criticism of the state of Israel, the government of Israel, not the people of Israel, not Jewish people. The idea that you can sit there and say that Palestinians have a right as Jews and Israelis do to self-determination, but they haven't had governments that represent them well. Right now, you've got two entities here. You've got Hamas and you've got Benjamin Netanyahu and his super right-wing government, neither of whom seem all that interested in a deal at the moment. And you have a whole lot of innocent people suffering. You've got these hostages and their devastated families. You've got the tens of thousands of civilians. And then we're having these discussions in the United States between people who seem confused as to what side of things they're on. As I remind people, the anti-Semites who say Jews will not replace us don't tend to be lovers of Muslims either. They tend to be racists across the board. So the rest of us should be joining hands and saying, we're not interested in your racist nonsense. We haven't been interested in it for a long time. But they have a lot of voice these days, and it is kind of shocking.
Yes, Ali, I'm an Iranian American, and I've also been confused because as a kid who is, existentially in this country because of a fascist theocracy that came into Iran, it is dumbfounding to me that I'm seeing resistance protesters for Palestine, also including people waving the Islamic Republic of Iran flag.
Right.
The one that has oppressed my family, that basically kicked us out of the country. It is so...
I think that is confusing. So here's the thing. I think I write about this in my book. I really believe in protest. I believe in free speech. I believe people should be able to peacefully protest. And I believe there are instances, not here in America right now, but there have been instances in the past where violence is necessary in protest because you're out of all other options. I think people have to be very careful right now, no matter where they stand on this issue. I think two things you have to understand. One is you do not have to choose between being pro-Israel and pro-Palestine. I didn't know that was a binary choice before October 7th, and it's not. Number two, if you are demonstrating in favor of the right of Palestinians to have self-determination, try extra hard to make sure that you are not associating with or you are not welcoming of, and you do not have anti-Semites in your midst, or people who are celebrating Hamas in your midst, or people who are celebrating the very undemocratic, meddlesome nation of Iran in your midst. Look, you and I can talk about this. I have a lot of views about the fact that I think we should have stayed in that Iran deal because we probably would have had more to say to the Iranians and more to hear back from them. And maybe we would have had some influence on their government, which has become yet more conservative, now going after women about hijabs and headdresses again. But yeah, you're right. Stick to the focus. There's a focus here that a lot of people are very interested in understanding about the people who are being affected in the Middle East. Stick to that. Don't let the bad people get involved in these protests.
Yeah, sorry, you're gonna. I'm so excited I was here, but yeah, to your point, the confusing part, at least to your last point, is a lot of the diaspora was against the Iran deal, but then once we got in, we were against leaving it too. So talk about layers of confusion. I want to just take a step back when it comes to Israel. You mentioned that there was this line that we're not going to be sending weapons to them, but could you tell the audience what has been the military strategic importance of Israel, and how has that evolved over the last 20 years? And how do we find ourselves in this position?
I think it's important to understand, and it's interesting that you mentioned Iran, because the context is important. Iran is allied at the moment with Russia, and by definition, sort of with that axis in which Russia is involved, which means China and North Korea to some degree, which means Iran is something of a superpower. At least it's a proxy for a superpower. It's also the supplier of weaponry to Russia, and it is half of the group that controls the country of Syria. So Iran is a very, very big deal. On the other side of that, Israel is a very, very big deal. It is a major U.S. ally. The U.S. has many other allies in the region, including Jordan and Saudi Arabia and Qatar and Turkey, which is a NATO country. But Iran is a very, very big deal. So when you have this tension between Iran and Israel, which has been going on at a minimum for the last 15 years in terms of very active interplay between them, you are looking at a sort of a pre-World War I situation where somebody does the wrong thing, one of those country sends rockets in the wrong place, lands in the wrong place, you could end up in a massive regional war. So American support of Israel has largely been about stability in the region, number one, and number two, causing Israel to be able to defend itself against hostile neighbors. The hope has been, over all of these years of doing that, Israel will develop better relations with its neighbors. It has done so with Jordan. It has done so with Egypt. It has done so with Qatar. It has almost done so with Saudi Arabia. But what has happened in the last 2 years, really, with the bad things that have been going on with the settlements in the West Bank, and then with October 7th, is that mission seems to have broken down. So it seems to be a little questionable about why we continue to send the weapons, but America is trying to use it as a piece of influence to say, everybody get back to the table. Let's get some regional deals done. Let's get some peace done. Let's hold Iran off together. I think it might be falling on deaf ears at the moment, but that's the goal.